Welcome back to Senior Basketball Analyst. For those of you that are not caught up to speed, I did a review of senior basketball. I did a review of Straight Outta Compton. And after that review, I also did a man, my ceiling fan is really acting weird. Anyway, after I did that review, I did an analysis of Dee Barnes' response to seeing the film that was commissioned by Gawker. You know, Gawker reached out to her and asked her what her thoughts were on, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and just address this. Whatever. That's what happens when stuff's live. Anyway, and I had a very public argument with a viewer, Dennis Wells, regarding the validity of these statements, how important this incident was, etc. And you can go back and view that. Well, Dr. Dre, in the New York Times published an apology from Dr. Dre in a larger piece. And the rest of the stuff I'm not going to get into because it's not relevant to this conversation. But Dr. Dre apologized, and I'll read you what he said. It's only, you know, it's a very short paragraph. I apologize to the women I've hurt. I deeply regret what I did and know that it has forever impacted all of our lives. 25 years ago, I was a young man drinking too much and in over my head with no real structure in my life. However, none of this is an excuse for what I did. I've been married for 19 years, and every day I'm working to be a better man for my family, seeking guidance along the way. I'm doing everything I can so I never resemble that man again. Dee's first sentence of her piece is, "Bravo, Andre. Humility is true self-knowledge." And you know what? This is a lot of what I was getting at, and this is a lot of what we're looking for from Dr. Dre. He can't erase what he did, but the continued clowning of Dee Barnes over the years was totally unnecessary. And he may have had her blackballed from the, you know, rap industry, which is bad enough when you hurt somebody's livelihood, especially when they didn't really do anything to you. But you know, Dee Barnes goes over this in her piece. And I remember hearing it on Eminem album, and this is part of why I don't listen to Eminem anyway. You know, like, you know, you think I'm going to listen to the guy that beat up Dee Barnes, and it's like a joke. Like, why is that funny that he beat up a woman? But then again, you listen to his albums, and this is why, you know, even though the guy can rhyme and he definitely has lyrical skill, this is why I don't really listen to his music, because too much of his music is about killing his wife and stuff. Like, I don't want to listen to a bunch of songs about raping and beating women. Why would I? Why would anybody? Is really what it kind of comes down to. Unless you do those things, unless you are a serial rapist, why would you listen to this stuff? I honestly don't really know. Maybe someone can explain it to me, but I don't really know why you would. I don't get it. And like, I remember, like, I had the Slim Shady LP, and I remember listening to it and thinking, why are so many of these songs about this kind of stuff? Like, why is that? And so naturally, he would be a guy who would kind of think that, you know, Dr. Dre running up on a woman and beating her up is funny, I guess. I don't think it's funny. And here's the thing, man. I will often say on this show, we are not them. Okay? And what does that mean? I give an example. All of a sudden now, Bill Cosby, everybody wants to run and is tripping over themselves to call this guy a serial rapist, right? Who held Bill Cosby accountable? Who started all this? Does anybody even remember? Well, I remember, because we do analysis here. We do facts. We do the knowledge. Hannibal Buress is the one that brought this out in the public and brought this out into the mainstream media. That's who brought this out. Then all of a sudden it was like, oh, now we're going to all pile on it. All of these all of these women, all these alleged victims had already said all this stuff. This is nothing new. Hannibal Buress brought that out. He went into Philly into Bill Cosby's backyard and accused him of raping a bunch of women. In a joke, but he did it. Then all of a sudden it became a thing because we're not them. We hold each other accountable. And what I like about all this is the first time Dr. Dre has actually apologized. The other stuff was just, he said it didn't happen. He's made all kinds of weird statements. Now, there's been some criticism, and Dee talks about this in her piece. There's been some criticism on social media from the community. Well, he didn't name Dee Barnes. He didn't name Terry B. He didn't name Michelet. He didn't say any names, and he was still too vague, right? For my purposes, the apology was adequate. And again, as a man, my opinion is you have to take my opinion with a grain of salt because this is actually a female issue. There is no epidemic of men being beaten in their relationships. So, and there's no epidemic really of men being victimized in the workplace. With women, they deal with this all the time because they are not in general as physically strong. So they deal with this kind of thing. So this is more an issue for them. But for me, I don't mind that so much because one, it's impossible. He's not going to go into Dr. Dre's lawyers are not going to let him go into the media and make a statement and specifying names and times and places and leaving himself open to all kinds of lawsuits. They're not going to do that. That's one. So that's not really, I didn't see that as being a thing that he might do, is really all I'm saying about that. In addition to which, we already know we already know. So he doesn't really have to say the names to me because we already know what he's talking about. We already know. He's responding to the Dee Barnes piece. That's what he's doing. And here's the thing. When I see statements like, I was drinking too much and in over my head and had no real structure. However, that's no excuse for what I did. That's a real apology. And I think that's why Dee Barnes said, bravo, Andre. Humility is true self-knowledge. And that is what we're striving for, by the way. The first thing, before you can have wisdom and before you can have knowledge of the outside world, you have to have knowledge of self first. That's first. You can't get to be a wise person without having the information, the knowledge. You can't get to that point. And so for Dr. Dre to be making this, even at this late stage in his life, I can appreciate that. And that's a good thing. And this is the kind of thing we were looking for because this is what's supposed to happen in a society. This is what we're supposed to do as part of the hip hop community. This is what we're supposed to do. What we're supposed to do is hold each other accountable. When you're wrong, you stand up like a man and you admit you're wrong. And then we go, okay, now we want to see you do better. And then if you go forth and do better, and then we can shake the man's hand and say, okay, he did better. And Dee Barnes makes a great point. Just because this man is an iconic figure and makes great, wonderful music, just because he does all these things, she calls him he's a creator of notable, brilliant art. That doesn't excuse your moral behavior. It doesn't excuse you just doing anything. We're not them. We don't just let people just do stuff and then go, oh, well, it's okay. He's powerful and rich. What do we look like? We look like some idiot Trump voters or something? We're going to be these people? We're just going to let some clown do anything just because he happens to have some money? No. In his case, he didn't really earn his money. He's a trust fund kid, but you get my point. Dr. Dre earned this money. So you get my point, though. We don't just let people do stuff and then just not say anything. So I applaud him. And you know what? I know that there's a self-serving element to this. This is messing up his money. I shouldn't say is messing up his money. This potentially could mess up his money. Dr. Dre is a brand. He is no longer just a person. He's like Michael Jordan. That's a brand. Brand Jordan. Beats by Dre is a brand. When you hear Dr. Dre's signature beat or the disciples of Dre producing a beat, when you hear those beats, man, this is a Dre brand. This isn't really about him being an individual contributor anymore. So there might have been some corporate pressure for him to come out and do this. But you know what? As Dee Barnes also said, it don't really matter why he apologized. What matters is that he did. That he did. And you know what? I'm willing to accept that. And it sounds as though she, as one of his victims and as the victim that we're talking about in this case, it sounds like she's willing to do that. But to be clear, and I'm glad she reiterated some of this stuff, this was an ongoing thing. This was a thing they were still making fun of her about this years and years later on records and putting them out, CDs at that time, and putting them out. So this wasn't a thing of where it was a thing that happened and then, no, and everybody in NWA, they were like, yeah, everybody was laughing. Ren looked like a sucker. Like, and these are all people, by the way, that I'm an NWA fan. I own the music. I listen to that stuff. Man, MC Ren is one of my favorite rappers. Ice Cube, I actually learned a lot from listening to, especially post NWA Ice Cube. All of these guys, I'm fans of their stuff just like anybody else. But that doesn't excuse them when they're wrong. When they're wrong, they're wrong. And we do the knowledge here. And we do analysis here. We do facts here. So if somebody's wrong, I'm going to tell you they're wrong. I don't care if I like them or not. It doesn't matter to me. It's like one time somebody told me, I told them John Starks was my favorite player. And they said, oh, John Starks beats his wife. I said, what's that got to do with basketball? That have anything to do with whether or not I'm a fan of the way he plays basketball. That affects what I think of him as a person. But guess what? I'm not inviting him over for dinner. That's not really my purview. But yes, if that's what he's doing, I have a serious problem with that. Yeah, I have a problem with it. But that doesn't change me how much I like how he plays basketball. And for Dr. Dre, him attacking Dee Barnes didn't have anything to do with whether or not I could enjoy listening to the Chronic. It doesn't have really anything to do with it. Now, there are things you could do where you step over the line. I admit that. But this was not something to me that was so big I couldn't enjoy that. And it wasn't something that was so big that I couldn't enjoy Straight Outta Compton as a film. As I said before, if you haven't seen it, I don't know what you're waiting on. $100 million in the box office, man. You better go see it. Go see it. Go support us. Go support hip hop. Go support some brothers making money. Go support that. But I think that I'm really glad that Dr. Dre stepped out and did the right thing, came with an apology, and I'm glad that Dee Barnes wrote a very just once again a thoughtful piece. I'll leave you with this. She said regarding all the jokes that they made about her subsequently after this incident, the hypocrisy of it all is appalling. This is bigger than me and bigger than hip hop. This is about respect and awareness. As a result of speaking on my personal experience with violence, I have been vilified. Women survivors of violence are expected neither to be seen nor heard, and the pressure increases when it involves celebrities. No one wants to see their heroes criticized. And if they are African American, the community at large becomes suspicious of an underlying motive to tear down a successful Black man. Dee Barnes is a very, very thoughtful writer, and I really enjoy her work. She's got a memoir coming out, Music, Myth, and Misogyny, Memoirs of a Female MC. I'm looking forward to it. And I'm looking forward to it because she really does. She writes in an engaging way, and she's a thinker. She really can break down the facts and then understand them in their larger context. And she's absolutely correct. We as a society, I shouldn't say we because we don't have any control over this. We're victims of society, really. But in our society, in the United States of America, What's going on elsewhere is not of concern to me. In the United States, though, females that speak up, whether it's that woman that was working as a contractor for Halliburton and she was gang raped by her fellow employees in Iraq, and then they stuffed her in a crate and she had to try to cell phone home. She stole a cell phone somehow and call home. Like, you know, you look at the rape rates in the military. We as a society don't care about female victims. We let women be victimized over and over again. And then when they speak up, we victimize them again by name calling them and turning them into the bad guys. And it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And so when it happens in our community, it really makes me angry because we're not like them and we're not supposed to behave like them. So, and the conflict here, the big conflict that arises here is our desire to do what's right, but then recognizing that a lot of times we can't believe the media because the media is always trying to take a successful black man and tear him down. And so we're always on that fence, and we're always skeptical of the things we see. So Dee Barnes recognizes this, and she really does a great job of covering all bases. So I encourage you to go to Gawker, like I always do when I'm talking about a piece. I encourage you to go and, you know, and consume the media and see what you think about it. And then, you know, if you think I'm off base, man, go in and do like, you know, Dennis did and call me a chump and a sucker or whatever. But that's my thoughts on what Dee Barnes said. And, you know, I'll echo what she said. You know, big up to Dr. Dre for stepping out and giving to me as detailed an apology as I think he could give in that medium and in that context. So this is senior basketball analyst, and you know that.